All right. So we're going to do a live Q&A, just a quick one here. And doesn't look like this little live chat thing is working just yet. Let's see if I change it to the correct one. Perhaps that will change. No, it is not showing the live chat yet. That is too bad. Okay, well, that it is what it is. So I'm going to be answering your questions here. Just figured I would jump on for, I don't know, half an hour or so, answer any questions that you have. And of course, I'm just going to wait until I hear from somebody. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is, hey, Mohammed, how's it going? Welcome. I actually really want to show you guys probably my newest favorite feature inside of Django. I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming down the pipeline that are really exciting with asynchronous things. But this right here inside of Django forms and form validation is just so nice. Like, I can't even tell you. I mean, if you don't know what this is, basically it just validates an individual form. Like, you can add an error for an individual form input, and this will actually go to that specific error versus the entire field or the entire form running an error, which I think is so cool. I'm so glad that they added that in. It's just something simple that it's just like, hey, this is really cool. This is a nice little change. Anyways, Patrick, hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? Arif, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you? Programmer, hi. Ashai, hello. Mark, hey. Abdul, hey you're back. Abdul Aziz, I think you were with me last time. Is that right? Thanks for being back. Teach JavaScript. I am. Visesh, let's say, I think that's how you pronounce your name. If you actually go to my GitHub repo, 30 Days of JavaScript has started there. I'm actually writing a book alongside of the recordings. Now, something that I don't talk about a lot is, depending on what I'm covering, I actually have a lot of notes that I'm using while I actually do the recording. Now what I'm doing, at least for 30 Days of JavaScript, is I'm actually turning those notes into a consumable book. And we're going to see how that does. And that's all open source, so you can definitely check it out. And feel free to add comments or any sort of issues that are related to that book. So hopefully that's cool. But yeah, I think JavaScript and Python, I think, are like the most important languages right now. There's certainly other ones, like Julia is really cool. Definitely want to check that out more. But JavaScript and Python are so fundamentally important that I definitely need to teach both of them. So yeah. Miguel, first time here. Thanks for joining. Happy to have you here. Hopefully I can answer some questions for you. That's kind of the purpose of going live like this. You're waiting on a tutorial on async and await in Python, programmer. Well, you are in luck. I just recently did one for web scraping, some basic asynchronous web scraping. So check that out in the 30 Days of Python series. And yeah, please make a video on Django async views. Oh, if that was what you were talking about, programmer, that is certainly something that needs to be covered. The part that I actually do cover it in is the Django Channels 2 series, both on YouTube and on my website. So you can see how it's done in Django Channels in the past. Django 3.1 especially has views that are asynchronous capable, which is really cool too. Harris, hey, how's it going? Willy Wonka, what's up, man? Do you have any candy? I think somebody asked me recently if I have any candy, but it's just funny that Willy Wonka, or at least that's your screen name, is here. Anyways, man, dad jokes. I'm the worst at them. Ask, hey, sir, what's up? Oki, I've learned a lot from you. Thank you, really. Thank you, Oki. Glad that I could help, and you're getting a lot from the things that I've done. It means a lot for me because hearing this stuff is like, oh yeah, like I just need to keep doing it. And that's why I'm doing more of these live things, is just to chat with you guys more in real time and hear some of the things that you are looking for, especially because you get these themes over and over of the things that people want to see, and it's nice to be here. Okay, cool. So Abdul, you've watched every episode of me. Oh, thank you. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Med, hello. Does Django 3, is it going to replace Django channels? I think that's the goal. So Django channels is meant to be, I think, a bridge towards full asynchronous capabilities inside of the official Django release. And they're doing it little by little. I think even Django 3, the original release for 3.0, was supposed to integrate Django channels, but for some reason that changed. And so we will see fully asynchronous Django in the near future, but since it's such a big framework, they have to take their time actually releasing it to the general public, because it just takes a while. And I mean, really, it's going to be a major change. Like, I argue all the time with all sorts of people that Django 1.8 is barely different than 3.1 even, with certain major exceptions, but the vast majority of things in Django are the same, especially for beginners. Now, for more advanced users, you're probably not even watching this, so you would know that that's not the case. So, anyways, yeah, good question. Rita, hey, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. How long have I been working with Django? Let's see. I think I started working with Django in either 2011 or 2012. I believe the version that was out was 1.2 or 1.3. So Django 1.2 or 1.3. So it's been a while. But it's definitely evolved since then. But the essence of Django has remained the same, which is also really, really cool. So definitely excited about the future of Django as well. That's like so cool. Do I recommend the book series called 2 Scoops of Django? Yes. Danny Greenfield, which I think he changed his last name now, so Danny Fieldroy, I believe his name now. He's awesome. He's really, really good. He knows Django inside and out. He's like the Django's teacher, or he's just a Django all-star. Let's just put it that way. Okay, cool. So, have I made any lectures on robot framework? Robot framework. What is robot framework? I'm not sure if I've seen that. Let's, you know what? Let's together do a quick little search for it. Robot framework. I'm assuming this is for actually controlling robot. Yeah, no surprise there. Yeah, no. So I actually haven't done anything related to robots themselves. I'm super interested in this because of the potential that you can take using like AI with robotics. And that's certainly where I think the vast majority of roboticists think that things are going. And it's something I definitely want to cover. So if you're working on robotic projects, just let me know. I would love to see what it is that you're working on. But I think the physics behind robots is just something that I don't know enough yet to really dive in. And plus I have a lot of things that I'm like trying to catch up with for all the software itself, and then also teaching a lot of software too. Harris, you've learned all of Django from me, and now you're a Python Django developer. That's awesome, man. Congrats. Where do you work? Are you a freelancer? Do you have a job? Do you have your own business? I'm really curious about that. Oki, why did you stop doing your podcasts? Podcasts, if you're interviewing someone, you can just go back and forth. If you're doing something like this where I'm answering questions that are actually right in front of me, it's really easy to answer them. But then just sort of like rambling on and talking to yourself, if there's no purpose, it gets hard to like keep momentum for that. So I really just lost momentum on the podcast, and therefore I stopped doing it. Maybe I'll do it again in the future, but in many ways, like the interviewing somebody else thing, I'm not sure if I'm best suited to do that for several reasons, although I think there's a lot to be learned by interviewing other people. But I mean, the question is like, do we really need another podcast of a software developer interviewing another software developer. I don't know. You guys tell me. Let me know what you think on that one. Sorry, every time I scroll, this is always a problem. I'll literally say this every time I stream. I looked at an old stream I did like a year and a half ago. Literally the exact same thing I'm complaining about the entire time. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's see. Revant, you just dropped by to say thanks for all the awesome Django. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Abdul, you're actually with Django from 1.6. That's awesome. Django 1.6 was, I think, a nice turning point for Django. I think it was 1.6 where they integrated South migrations. That was a really nice thing. So make migrations and migrate didn't used to be so easy. So that's like one of those major changes that some of the versions, have just updated. Willy Wonka, first time here. Thanks for being here. Nicholas, hi. How's it going? Michael, can you make a video on how to deploy a website using AWS Lambda? I have that actually on cfe.sh. I definitely have AWS Lambda things. There's blog posts. I believe, I'm trying to remember what the framework or the project name was called. Zappa. Yeah, it's Zappa. So check out Zappa, Z-A-P-P-A. That is how you can quickly launch things on AWS Lambda. It's really, really cool. And I covered that a lot. What do I think of Rust language? It's really popular. I actually haven't used it much, Miguel. So I can't really give that great of a comment on it. But it is certainly something that I should use a lot more, but I just haven't. So there's just so little time in the day, There really, really is. All right, so I want to show you guys this. I stumbled upon this. I don't know how it took me so long to stumble upon this. 85,000 stars for the algorithms Python. This is really cool. There's all sorts of just open source algorithms to do all sorts of things, right? I obviously jumped into the web programming one, fetching the IMDb top 250 movies with Python requests. Pretty simple, right? It's cool that they have this. I just wanted to point it out to you guys because it's just, you can learn a lot from just pulling something like this down and running it. And this is an example of one of those libraries that it's it makes sense why it's so popular. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. There's all sorts of things in there, which is pretty cool. So if you see stuff like this, let me know. Shoot it over to me. I definitely want to check it out, whether it's here on YouTube or you can send it over to my not so active but somewhat active Twitter, right? And that's at Join CFE. Just feel free to shoot it over there, and I'll try and take a look to it. You can also send it to my personal account. Either way, if you tag me on something that's cool, like one of these resources that we should all check out, I'll definitely mention it in a future video of some kind, hopefully. Yeah. Little tangent there. Let's see. Code with Tomy. Hi. How's it going? Professional face puncher. I think I've seen you write some questions here and there. It's an interesting name. Are you like in UFC or something? Anyways, thanks for being here. Professional face puncher. Big fan of the 2 courses on Udemy, e-commerce and TweetMe 1. Thanks for watching both of those. E-commerce 2 is coming down the pipeline, hopefully soon. TweetMe 2 is on YouTube, so definitely check that out if you're interested in, getting some more things related to TweetMe. Sweet. Oscar, I wanted to ask you. I stopped learning Python and Django last year, and I want to start again. Can you please give me what to do? Yeah, so just check out 30 Days of Python. If you can do all of that, no problem, then you probably have enough of a foundation of Python to just jump into Django. Now, even if you only do like the first, 10, 15 videos of 30 Days of Python, you can check out Try Django, any of our Try Django series. Just stick with a version of Django in there, and you'll see if you like Django. And then from there, it's just a matter of finding interesting projects that you have and you want to actually release on GitHub, and hopefully that ends up turning into a project that you earn money from, whether it's like a freelance project or like I don't know, like you actually get a job or something like that from it too. Hopefully that helps answer your questions. How do I modify Django admin pages like Pro PHP admin? I don't actually know how the Pro PHP admin is modified, so I can't comment to that specifically. But Django admin itself, you can actually just modify the templates that drive Django admin. That is one way to change it. I think that's what you're asking me, not so much of like how do you add things to the admin, because the admin.py, there's a lot of things that you can add to that. But if you want to change the styles of it and whatnot, just take a look at the Django codes templates for the admin, and you can literally bring those into your project and change them, much like you would with adding templates to like a model. It's pretty cool. Next thing, let's see. Sir, I've learned Django from your tutorials, and now I've made a custom segmentation application using Django. Hey, that's cool, Arif. Can we see it? Shoot, put it in the comments. Let's check that thing out, or tweet it to me. Either one. Recommendation for a Python fundamentals book. I don't actually study the Python fundamentals ever really. So I don't have a book recommendation for the fundamentals. If I've sent one to review it, perhaps then I would have better reviewed books and better recommendations for the fundamentals books. I've heard that automating the boring stuff is pretty good. I haven't used it much. I think I saw it, the first time I saw it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And Python the Hard Way, that was another one that I saw around the same time. Those were really cool back then. I don't know if they still are or not, but that might be something worth checking out. But as far as the newer ones, no clue. Sorry. Maybe 30 Days of Python, just watching it instead of reading a book. That's kind of the point. So you want to Phil Annie? Is that your name? Real-time apps in Mern, the Mern stack. So remind me, that's Mongo, Express, React, Node. Is that the Mern stack? I always forget. So yeah, that's an interesting topic. Something that I definitely would maybe like to cover at some point. It's just certainly down the line. So I still need to do 30 days of JavaScript. That's going to take some time. It will cover parts of the Mern stack. I also need to do a new Try React series because React hooks and functional components are amazing. So that's something I'm probably more inclined to checking out than doing some of those other things that you've mentioned. All right, Willy Wonka, can you talk a bit about your entrepreneurship experiences so far? I'm a budding entrepreneur myself, and I'd love to hear your experiences and any lessons learned. So I haven't started enough businesses to really give great advice on entrepreneurship. I think the more I do my own business, the more I realize that it's nice to have a nice diverse, set of experiences to really give advice on this. But I will say, I heard something from Elon Musk recently where he said, and I even tweeted about it today. So he said that if the schedule is too long, the design is wrong. I think this is true about businesses as well. So if you have to build your business and it takes you 6 months to build your first version, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. Realistically, you could start a business in a weekend. Coding for Entrepreneurs started because of one project I made, one course, one product over a weekend. It literally took me 2 days. It took me like another week and a half to actually release it because I was nervous and all that. But it didn't take me very long to have that first product. And then I had a nice influx of people who are really interested in it. And that built the momentum for all of the future versions. I've definitely watched some of my old classes and I'm just like dumbfounded the quality. I mean, there's definitely some good nuggets in there, but it's like I really was really amateur at making these courses back then. I think I've improved a lot, and I still think I have a lot of ways to go because improvement is a never-ending game. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think if you can find something that people actually want now versus trying to find people who want what you've built, right? So you find like a good example of this is if you are walking around a marketplace and you see this really long line. For us, it was macarons for a really long time. Macarons were really, really popular. So all of these macaron shops started popping up here in Southern California. And there's lines down, it's really, really long lines. So, maybe something in that business would have been really good to jump on at that time and seeing the patterns that other people are already doing. Take that as a contrast of like a chocolate bar shop, right? Sure, maybe you could open up a chocolate bar shop because there's already a market of people who want chocolate bars. But if you're trying to like make a copy of a Snickers bar and it's $6, people aren't necessarily going to buy it. But for some reason, a $4 little cookie is something people buy all the time. I mean, my family and I, we love it. They're just a lot of fun. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could talk about with entrepreneurship. Another book that's really good and worth checking out that kind of goes into a lot more depth of this, like finding a market and then building a product for that market, is the Lean Startup. And their entrepreneurial methods in there are fantastic. I highly, highly recommend that book. It's like, I think it's like 10 years old now, but it's really good. So get the audiobook if you want to just listen to something while you're walking around and get some really, really smart ideas for implementing very scalable projects and businesses. Thanks for the question. Love it. Nicholas, you got into coding through Python and is thinking maybe Rust would be a great way to get more low-level coding while preserving the practical spirit of Python. Nicholas, that's certainly possible, but I guess the question is like, what is your goal here? Like, if you want to get into low-level coding just for the love of low-level coding, by all means, go ahead and do it. But if you actually want to like get a job or something, then master one really, really well, get a job, and do that every day until you're incredibly good, because then picking up something new is going to be a lot easier. A good example of this is like, I feel very confident that if I spent a month on Rust, I would be very proficient at it. I wouldn't necessarily be the best in the world, and I wouldn't necessarily get hired for a senior level position there. But I think for sure I'd be able to be hired as a junior in a Rust type programming environment. But the idea that you can't master something new is really up to how well you know one thing, right? So like if you know Python really well or JavaScript really well, it's a lot easier to switch to another task, even these low-level languages. Or at least that's my opinion. And I've seen it myself too. Like I learned Python before I really mastered JavaScript. I knew a little bit of JavaScript, but now going back to JavaScript and really mastering JavaScript over the last few years, it has been incredibly easy because of Python. So, and that was true for Swift too. So Swift is Apple's programming language, and I for a while there I knew Swift pretty well, and then since then I haven't been using it a whole lot, but I know that if I go back to it, I could probably pick it up pretty quickly. Mohit, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Let's see. Next one. Mark, when should I start sourcing for jobs? I know the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. I also know the basics of Python, Django, and Learning Rack, but I'm still not there yet. So when do you actually apply for a job? Do it as soon as possible. Like, I mean, the sooner you're working in this all day, every day, the faster you're going to get better at it. Like, no doubt, right? The question really is, what jobs are you applying for? So if you're trying to get a $180,000 job with some basic knowledge, you're not going to get it. But if you're going to help the, maybe like the doctor down the street or the restaurant down the street improve their web application or website, you can get those kind of jobs a lot easier with very, very little knowledge. And then again, if you're working on it every single day, you can absolutely improve. So to me, the trick would be get the very first job that you can that's willing to hire you with the skill set you have, knowing that your skill set has a lot of room to grow. I mean, that's the way to do it, I think. So anyways, let me know if you want me to elaborate more on that. Nicholas mentions Python Crash Course is a good for the fundamentals. Thanks, Nicholas. Ashai, it's 4 a.m. there. Wow, you are up super late. Fazal, how am I doing? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Jorge, What is computer? Great question, Jorge. So silly. Such a troll right there. Hi, Arif. Please, can you become my learning mate? Hey, there you go. You got somebody that you can be learning with. Sweet. Yo, dude, when was the last time you slept? Your eye bags go crazy. Take like a 30-minute break, bro. Thank you. I actually am fighting a little bit of cold. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but my kids had a cold, so when my kids wake up, my wife and I wake up all the time. So it's also maybe the lighting, and maybe I'm just, getting old. I don't know. But I'm not super tired. I actually I do sleep. That's hilarious. Maybe I need to sleep more or something. I don't know. Want to ask you, I stopped learning Python and Django from last year, and I want to start again. Oh, you already asked me this. Looks like I maybe Django Q better than Celery. Celery is amazing. Django Q, I haven't used it enough to really say. Maybe the scheduling part of Django Q is better, but Celery is very, very high performance and very mature. So I really, really like it. Have I watched the Cyanide and Happiness show? I have not. What is that? What do you think of Fast API? Fast API is amazing. It's kind of like Flask, where it doesn't have very many batteries built in. Of course, any web application can be like as good as Django in terms of you can add on a bunch of features to make it really good. Fast API is cool. I'm definitely going to be covering it a lot more. I did a little bit of it, I think, in 30 Days of Python, so check that out. What do you use as your primary programming IDE and OS? I use VS Code primarily. The operating system, my day-to-day, is a Mac OS. Whatever the newest one is, I always forget. What is it, Catalina? Oh yeah, it's right behind here. So that's the operating system I've used. The reason I don't use like Linux solely is because there's a number of things that Linux doesn't necessarily have support for what I use on a daily basis. Like editing videos, for example. I don't want to learn a new program. And also my Mac is very high performant. I like it a lot. But I use Linux for all of my servers. So there's that. Okay, next one. I've started watching my Twitter clone with React to Django. Very insightful and helpful information. Thank you. Appreciate it. What should a new grad / junior developer know to get their first web dev job? So there's a lot of things that you're going to want to know to get a job. But I think the main thing is soft skills. That's a big one. Like actually being able to communicate to like the business team or managers or the marketing team and communicate in a way that's not super technical. Because most people, maybe we are the exception, but most people start to glaze over when you start talking about the cool technical stuff, right? As soon as that happens, you gotta learn the cue, the social cue, to dial it back and put it in terms that might excite them. Even if it's buzzwords and lame stuff like that, you just really have to like learn how to communicate with other non-technical people. That I think is a incredibly useful skill in any job, but especially as a technical person, because there's a lot of technical people that don't know how to do it and don't necessarily move very far in their careers. They might be brilliant, but they don't know how to sell their ideas. So that's one thing that I would recommend that you should know. The other thing is the willingness to buy a book, any book, or take courses and just work as hard as you possibly can to learn whatever that is. So learning as quickly as possible is another thing that you're going to want to be able to do. And then share your work. Share it on GitHub. Share it a lot. Make improvements to your old projects. Seeing that progression is incredibly important, because then it's also something you can talk about in your interview. You can be like, hey, I made this application 4 years ago when I was learning, and I redid it in a weekend. 4 years ago, it took me 6 months. This weekend, it took me a weekend, and I made an even better one than I've ever done. I mean, stuff like that is what you'll definitely want to do as a web dev, whether or not you're a new one or you've been doing it for a long time. Next question: am I actually an entrepreneur? Yeah, I've started many businesses. I just they're not like out of the ballpark home run businesses. Coding for Entrepreneurs is the one I'm well known for. And there's other businesses that have started and failed. And that's just how it goes as an entrepreneur. You got to try things out. One of them was a training program for how pesticide handling works. So pesticide handling is something that is incredibly important because it needs to be incredibly safe. But that business fell through, unfortunately. And I've had a few others since then, but that was the most recent one that I recently shut down because my partners and we just weren't happy about the progress. Let's see here. Wow, getting blown up on the spam. Let's see. Do I mentor people? Since you've asked me 100 times, I'll say this. No, I don't necessarily mentor people other than doing stuff like this, jumping on and answering some questions. I actually only have a few more minutes, so thanks for coming out, you guys. Let's see if you have... Now I'm just getting blown up. Hey, can you not ask these same questions a million times? Thank you. Otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna have to hide you from my questions. Like, what's that all about? You know, I'll get to it. Hopefully, I'll get to it. You want to become an advanced front-end developer to the point where I can build Bootstrap templates and components from scratch. What courses do you recommend? I recommend going through Bootstrap's code, all of their code base, and going line by line and seeing whether or not you understand what's happening there. See if you can unpack it. If you can, perfect. You don't need a course to do that. You just need to go to GitHub and go line by line. In there, you should get questions of like, oh, how is SaaS done, for example? How does SaaS actually work? And then you find a course or even just a little online guide on how that's done. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Can you work without a diploma? Just showing portfolio with projects? Yes, you absolutely can get jobs without a diploma. It might be harder. It depends on where you're trying to work, right? Like, I mean, some businesses say like, no, if you've never had a diploma before, you're not going to get hired. So that's that, you know. But if you start to make an online portfolio, you can freelance on Upwork and freelancer.com with just an online portfolio. It's just, what are you going to charge for your work and where are you trying to work? Those are the things that always come into play when you don't have all of the credentials necessarily to jump in to a job. Please do tutorials on Kubernetes. Thanks for the suggestion. That is something that we'll be doing here soon. Okay, Nicholas, it's a really shame how many spammers. Great stream anyway. Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate it. I am not afraid to block them. It's just the thing is, it's literally just making the stream go, and it's like keeping up with the actual valid questions. That's kind of frustrating. There's got to be better ways to do all these things. Maybe it's just not doing a Q&A or adding all the questions not live, except for maybe like, I don't know, the super chats or something. There's got to be a better way. I'm sure there is. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Yeah. So the next question is, a college degree associated with coding worth it? This one has a lot of implications of like, what is a college degree for, right? Is it for the social experience? Is it for mastering some sort of field? Now, if you just want to master a field, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can just read every possible thing you can get your hands on for free on places like GitHub, and just there's so many blogs out there that write a bunch of free content. I do it, but there's also many others that would allow you to fully learn any topic, right? And in the United States, we have public libraries. That's another thing. You can literally just walk into a public library, learn and master almost any topic. So the question is, what is a university for then? Or what is taking any class for then? Well, hopefully it's to extract the knowledge of any given professor as best you can. Because like me, I've been learning programming, and I say learning because I still learn all the time. I've been learning it for a decade, right? So when I make courses, you get all of that experience in that course, right? You don't realize it. Like, hopefully I make things look incredibly easy. Or if it is incredibly hard, hopefully I at least clarify as to why it's incredibly hard. And of course, I don't always do that super well. And that's part of the learning process as a teacher. But the main thing is that you can master and learn anything in this world if you really were dedicated to it, regardless of the resources you have on hand to learn those things. That's just my thought. I mean, I learned and mastered Django without all these classes that I make, right? I make them. The reason I make them is because they didn't exist at the time. Now there's a ton of them, right? That's just one thing. Willy Wonka, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. We'll update you on your entrepreneurship experiences. Have one biz and learn Django to get the second biz running. Pretty cool. Good luck with all that, Willy Wonka. Thanks for the support here. It's so amazing the time we live in. The fact that we can deploy these like highly scalable web applications in a weekend, right? So 15, 20 years ago, that would have been incredibly hard to do. But all of these services, all this open source makes it incredibly, incredibly easy, I think. I mean, there's still challenges. There's a challenge to doing anything well all the time. So whether that's a business or a skill or relationships, they're always, always challenging if you want to do it well, which I think is one of the best things about it. Once it starts to become not challenging, it starts to get boring, and then you want something new. You want some change, some variety. So that's pretty important too. Nicholas, yeah, maybe having the questions before is a good idea. But see, like today I didn't really plan it. I just had a gap in my schedule. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and jump on for like half an hour and answer some questions, hopefully help you guys out. So yeah, but the questions before is definitely a good idea. It's just the responses often happen a lot more when it's live. Like these questions are always happening more when they're live. It's just like, how do you balance the spam? And I think that's where the super chats come in. Really, I think that's why YouTube introduced the super chats, is so that creators would be like, hey, just give me a super chat, and then those are the ones I'm going to answer, and that's it. I'm not going to do that because then I would only have 2 questions, and then we're done in a minute, right? But anyway, so thanks, Nick. Osmano, my content's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. How did you know manage study for university and learn a code for yourself? Please help. I just went over all this stuff. University is great for a lot of things, but I don't necessarily think it's the best way for everything. In fact, realistically, looking back, there's a part of me that was like I definitely would have done a lot more things with physical engineering, like taken engineering classes, because software is a hobby of mine that became a career. And I also took business classes, and that was a hobby of mine then, but I really wanted to know a lot more about business because I thought it was universal. But really, I bet there's going to be a lot more emphasis on non-technical, as in non-engineering and non-business, like universities are going to be maybe even more important, because then understanding other areas of the world that you're not actively involved in might become one of those great things on how you can become well-rounded and really see the forest through the trees for any project that you're working on. Because engineers get very narrow-minded. I do this all the time too, where you're just like really focused in on one thing in particular, and you're not necessarily stepping back and looking at the big picture and seeing like what are the true trends that are happening, not what is the news telling us about, right? That's a good example of that. I mean, you could look back to like when the iPhone came out. Not a single person was talking about these potential touchscreen interfaces for our smartphones and how that's going to revolutionize the next 20, 30 years. We have no idea how long it's going to happen. But back then, that was not happening. I'm sure there's a few niche researchers that were looking at it, but nobody was doing it in the way that we expect. So that happens now too, obviously. People talk a lot about certain things, but they're totally missing something. And whatever that something is, the more you can foster a larger worldview, you're probably gonna be able to find what those things are. At least that's my hope. That's how I believe about things, and that's why I try to keep my eyes open as much as possible to these other areas. But anyways, cool. So let's see here. Lost a lot. Let's. Somebody asked, how can you donate to me? hello@teamcfe.com. You could send us PayPal. That's a way to donate if you actually want to. Thank you for the question, and for the potential. Love it. Every donation, every dollar helps me make more content. It really does. That's how I've been able to have a career, and that's how we keep going. Anyways, so any suggestions for someone starting an NLP with Python? NLP is natural language processing. There's a lot of things that you can start with. RASA, RASA, is a really cool resource. They have YouTube channel that discusses all sorts of natural language processing stuff in there. Spacey is another one. SPACY is another Python project that is really great for NLP. Fast.ai, I believe they talk about NLP in there as well in some of their courses. So check out those. Hopefully that helps. A big part of NLP is actually getting and extracting data. And naturally, I talk a lot about scraping data. So maybe learning that as well. Let's see here. Is it possible to start another series of Django 3X after creating advancing your blog or doing advancing blog? So I think maybe you're asking after you watch one of my series, can you do Django 3.0? Yeah, totally. Django's Django. So yeah, I started learning Python and Django for my courses a year ago. Thanks so much. 47 and entrepreneur in other areas. I'm still struggling to get my first job, but very motivated. Thank you. That's awesome. Gmail net full. Software is one of those things you can learn at any age. And I think you would probably agree with me that I wish I learned it and mastered it much sooner, right? I wish I was writing applications when I was like 10. It's a shame that wasn't the case. Because even when I was 10, which is a little over 20 years ago, software was still pretty new, but it was definitely a big part of our lives. Like everyone had computers and stuff like that at that point. So I would say just keep going, release a bunch of things to GitHub, and go on freelance websites and just be honest and say, hey, I don't know that much, but I'm eager, I'm motivated, I want to make this happen. So give me a shot and I'll work harder than anybody else. That's what I think. Always. It's always that. Like you have complete control over your attitude and also how hard you work. Now, when you think you're going to make a ton of money right off the bat, it just doesn't always happen. You just have to work hard and learn a lot. And once you actually have a really full understanding of the things that you're doing, then it's only then you'll be able to really start making a lot more money for it. So maybe a couple more questions. Let's see. Rasa's good framework for NLU and building a chatbot. Yeah, Willy Wonka, I totally agree with you. Let's see. Heroku is the best platform to deploy a Django project. That is up for some debate. I think Heroku is amazing, for sure, and I use it for all sorts of projects all the time. But to say it's the best platform is hard to say, because it's like, well, what is it that you're trying to do exactly? And that doesn't always fall under using Heroku services. Let's just say that. Like if you want a serverless application on a container, Heroku is not the best solution because Heroku doesn't have a serverless service at this point that I know of. So Google Cloud Run would be that. Let's see. Do I have a course on how to handle VS Code settings so that I can finally install PyLint? No, but to install PyLint, you just need to use a virtual environment in your project. VS Code can use that Python's virtual environment. That's what you would do. PayPal doesn't have a work in your country too. You're from the Ukraine. Do you have other ways? You can always enroll on cfe.sh. That takes Visa or MasterCard. So that's a way to do it. So enrolling there, I don't know if that's what you want. Thoughts on no-code tools like Bubble and Webflow? Rahav, is that how you say it? So no code, if you're not familiar, no code is essentially integration tools that some developers make, but they're made to automate processes without actually writing code. So they're like pretty uniform processes. So a good example would be if somebody signs up for an email newsletter, what happens after that? Well, maybe you want to put their information in a Google spreadsheet, right? So that's an example of a potential no code workflow that us as software developers we could definitely do. But that same pattern or that same recipe is very easily repeatable. So these no code solutions are really gaining a lot of steam because that integration is incredibly easy. But then to move it around, let's say it's no longer an email sign up, but rather it's a purchase and it still needs to go to that same spreadsheet. You know, those sorts of things are happening all the time. And that's thanks to API integrations and all that. So I actually haven't used them a lot. I think that they're interesting, but I'm not fully sold yet on the idea that no code is going to take over everything. I really don't think it will. But if you don't know or understand automation and you're not ready to learn how to code, because not everybody is not ready to learn how to code, then using no code to understand automation more is a really good idea, right? So if you're not ready to commit to building your own software applications by writing code, then you should build your own software applications by using no code, because then you'll have to logic through all of the automation steps. And that's a useful exercise, even if you do know how to code, to think through every automation step that has to happen in any given process or application or workflow. Yeah. Cool. So let's see. Is the NDA something that grants your rights, or is it just a piece of paper? An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. It's a legal binding document if it's done correctly. So that means that whoever you sign an NDA for, they have legal recourse to sue you. Does that mean it's like, I'm not an attorney, so obviously this is not legal advice. But does that mean that they for sure can sue you and they would be successful? Not necessarily, because NDAs don't always hold up in court, is what they say. But just be careful what you sign as far as an NDA is concerned, of course. But when in doubt, just speak to an attorney that knows all about NDAs. And if you're not American, I actually don't know how well NDAs hold up against non-Americans from American companies. I don't think they do. Oh, wow. I've already been on here for almost an hour. Okay, guys, I definitely have to call it. So a couple quick answers. Do I have any courses on automation? Well, yeah, every software course is on automation. But as far as like just automation workflows and thinking through like no code and stuff like that, don't have that yet. What is Rasa? Rasa is a third-party package in Python for building chatbots, but they also have a YouTube channel and they talk about a lot of cool stuff. So check them out. Let's see. Is there any point to going to a university? Yeah, there's a lot of points. Check out Peter Thiel's arguments on these things. Peter Thiel makes amazing arguments for it, of like, what is a university for? Is if it's for an investment, in a financial investment, then it's probably not a good idea. But if it's for the social aspect, socializing, and mastering certain fields, potentially a really good idea. I'm still torn on whether or not a university is worth it. But for me personally, the challenge of getting into the university I wanted to go is what was worth it. The university itself was fun. I had a good time, but the skills that I learned working hard to get into that university, that's what have stuck with me going forward. So something to think about. Cool. Okay. Last question. Love this question. Is Django relevant in 2020? Yes, absolutely. Django's probably more relevant now than it ever has been. But that's also true for all other web application frameworks written in Python. Django just has the one that has the most batteries built in. So yeah. Any suggestions? I like this question too. This is how I get stuck for another 20 minutes. You guys keep asking good questions. Thanks. This makes all of this so much more fun. I appreciate it. Any suggestions on contributing to open source projects? Well, pick an open source project, read the code, fork it, make some changes, and submit a pull request. That's it. That's all you have to do to actually contribute. Now, whether or not they'll take those contributions is one thing, but if you do it a lot, especially for a specific project, the maintainers of that project will see what you're doing and start giving you feedback, either willingly or unwilling. I mean, like, they're not necessarily going to love it if you're giving bad contributions. So definitely don't do that. But the main thing is like the one that I showed you guys earlier. This one right here, the algorithms for Python. This one you could totally contribute in a lot of ways, right? I already see there's a number of things that you can add to the web programming one that might be really cool in here, as well as many other things too. But that's something else to check out and consider. Thanks for that question. Okay, is it true that PHP is more powerful than Python? No, it's not true. Is Python more powerful than PHP? No, that's not true. They're both powerful. It really depends on how you use them. That's almost always true, right? If you're the best at either one, I bet both of the best of the best at PHP and best of the best at Python going head to head would probably come really, really close in how powerful of applications that they can make, also how efficient and all that. Machine learning course. Yes, I have a Try Keras course on my website already, and I'm going to be doing a lot more machine learning stuff too. Actually, I also have getting the Hello World of Machine Learning, which is a really basic fundamental machine learning course as well. Both of those are on my website, so definitely check those things out. Okay, one last really good question. Let's see here. I'll just go back to the machine learning stuff. How do I learn machine learning with Python? You're a master's student looking for the right approach to learn it. How do I approach it? First, I would say pick a project that you really want to solve with machine learning. If you don't know how machine learning works really, it comes from data. So a lot of data will tell you something about that data, or at least you can use machine learning to tell you something about that data. And then from that, you'd be able to solve it or have some sort of way to make an application with machine learning, and also a strong project that you can push forward with. So what I would say is take a tomato sorter, like tomatoes, little fruit, like a computer vision tomato sorter that uses robotic arms. That sounds like an incredibly challenging project, but it'd be really good. So you could see the really red ones versus the green ones and actually sorting those things out. To do that, it starts with the data. You need a ton of data to actually be able to execute that. So that would be a good way to start. That's just a project off the top of my head. Just think of things that require a lot of data, and that's where you go. Another thing is you could just jump into a course like fast.ai. They have a lot of really good machine learning courses, so I definitely check that out. Jeremy Howard is the man. Okay, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you again soon. And yeah.